All right. Exodus chapter 13. We got up through really the first 16 verses the last couple of weeks, and we're going to start in Exodus chapter 13. We'll get in verse 17 and move on down from there, and we'll see how far we get with this. I handed some of these out last week, and if you didn't get any, that's okay. We do have at least two left over, but this is a map of the Exodus out of Egypt, and one of the things you'll see that's very different than most people have ever said is they had the nation of Israel crossing the Red Sea up here at this little blip, just this little spot here. Right. Land of the reeds, I think is what they call it. Yeah. So that's where most people put it. But you'll see through the scriptures that's not what it is, and it's actually going to be down here. And so then we've got some verses that go along with that. And of course, we're getting into that section where you start seeing this. And I told Delilah, I was like, I wanted to make sure that I brought the Chromebook, that way we could project it, but guess who forgot the Chromebook? It's all me. But if you've got this, you can kind of follow along with us as we go through here, especially this first part, because really you don't see until a little bit later on where they're camping out before they go across it at the very beginning of chapter 14 down here. And then we'll take a look at some things as we go through there. But I need to get one more thing here. But Exodus chapter 13, what I want us to do, we're going to start verse 17, and we'll read down through the end of this chapter, and then, of course, we'll see how far we get. So chapter 13, verse 17, and it came to pass when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God led them not through the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest peradventure the people repent when they see war, and they return to Egypt. But God led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up harnessed out of the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had straitly sworn the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones away hence with you. And they took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Etham, and in the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went before them by the day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way. There we go. And by night in a pillar of fire to give them light to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night before the people. Father, we thank you once again for the opportunity that we have to study your word. And as we take a look at this information, may we allow it to be the final authority in all things. Not what we think or say about it, but what the scriptures actually say. We thank you for this opportunity, because as we study this, we learn more about you, that we can come to a greater knowledge and appreciation of you and what you're doing, that we might know what you're doing in this particular dispensation, and that we can trust you because we know that you are trustworthy. We thank you for this day. We thank you for your word, and we thank you most of all for Jesus Christ, and it's in his name we pray. Amen. Now, if you notice there on that chart, where they're coming out, if you notice that in verse 17, why is it that God doesn't just take them through where the Philistines are? And you see the reason why in verse 17 is because there's war there, and what happens is God says, if they get out there and they see war, the nation of Israel is going to want to return back to Egypt. Okay? So we see there's a reason why he takes them down through the path in which he takes them. And again, we got to think about this issue in retrospect. What we're reading here in Exodus 13 is something that Moses wrote many years later about the event, which is why we have information here before they even leave Egypt, right? On their way out, he's already telling them, here's how we're going to go about doing this, and here's where we're going to take them. Notice, in verse 18 it says, "But God led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up harnessed out of the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had straitly sworn the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones away hence with you." And that's exactly what Joseph told them that they were going to do, and that's exactly what they're doing, right? So they're taking their bones up with them, and we talked about that a little bit last week about how they did that, and that was by faith in what God says. Now, verse 20. "And they took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Etham." So if you notice in the map up here, you've got Egypt on the left-hand side, you've got Goshen, and then you got Succoth there. That's where we see that they're going to start coming out here in chapter 13, in verses 18 through 20 down here. And then they encamped in Etham, in the edge of the wilderness. And so then we see their path going down into the wilderness of Egypt. And then, of course, the next time that we see something's going to be over here in chapter 14. And we'll see that in just a second. But we see where they're starting to come from. Now, in order for them to go through that little blip up there on the left-hand column or the left-hand side of that map, you see that just south of Succoth, right? That's where a lot of people say that they crossed. But what he's doing is he's actually taking them down into the wilderness of Egypt before he gets over there, right? So if they cross the Red Sea up there, how's he taking them down through the wilderness before they even go across the Red Sea? Right, so you got to think about this just logistically, but scripturally we'll see some of these things a little bit more as we go through. Now, we talked about last week about the issue of how he's going about doing this. And verse 21 and 22, what we see God is with them the entire way. Now, what was the promise that God made to the people of Israel before they were a nation? While they were in Egypt, he says, "I will bring you out." Okay? And so then in verse 21 and 22, we see this is how God did it, right? Now, again, we got to think. Moses is writing this, and he's going back into the history of what they've done, and he's writing it. And in verse 21 it says, "And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud." Now, technically, as we go through here, we've not gotten to the point where he's moved them out yet, but Moses is writing as if it's already happened because to him it already has, right? And so then it says, "And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light to go by day and night." And we talked about the issue of how is it that they were going is they're going day and night, not that they're going 24 hours a day. In fact, what I want to do is I'm going to take a look at some passages here in just a second, so we can see some of that stuff, and we'll see what that is. Verse 22, "He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people." Now, go with me to Exodus chapter 40. All right, we'll take a look at a couple other passages that'll go along with this. So the first will be Exodus chapter 40. So over here in Exodus chapter 40, notice we'll start here at verse 34. Now, by the time you get over to Exodus chapter 40, to kind of give us an idea, and I know we're going ahead of our place here, but in Exodus chapter 40, they've got the tabernacle set up. Okay, if you notice here, it's starting off at verse 34. There's a whole thing of the tabernacle being set up here, but notice here in verse 34, "Then a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle." Now, this cloud that we see here, we'll see with the other passages. One of the things that's going to be dealing with the cloud there is what else do we notice there that's also there? We'll just put it that way. When the cloud is covering the tent, what else do we notice that's there? The glory of the Lord, right? So the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle, and so you're going to have those things show up and over again. We'll see that. Verse 35, "And Moses was not able to enter into the tent of the congregation because the cloud abode thereon, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle." So, Well, it's interesting. So it is the light, but it's his presence, right? So then when you talk about, and we've already seen, like, remember back when Moses first met God, right? And of course, a little bit later on, we'll see in chapter 33 and 34 where Moses says, "Let me see your glory," and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But when we see this, it's not just the light, but it's his presence as well, right? Now, what's interesting is, did you all catch in, hold your place there, Revelation 21? Did you all catch this morning from Bruce when he was reading this in Revelation 21? I'm going to assume that Bruce knew what he was doing. You don't have to tell me no, that you didn't see this or not. But Revelation 21, I'm just going to assume you knew it. Revelation 21, verse 23. And of course, by the time you're over here in Revelation chapter 21, you've got the new heaven and new earth, right? And the sun and moon and stars, all that stuff's done away with because of verse 23. Notice, and the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it. So there you've got specifically talking about the glory of God would be the light, and his glory does away with the need of the sun and the moon and stars and all that stuff. It's his light that's doing it. But notice this, and the Lamb is the light thereof. Right? So when you're looking at this, who is the light of the glory of God? The Lamb, Jesus Christ, right? In verse 24, and the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth to bring their glory and honor into it. And you're going down through there talking about that kingdom that's going to be here on the earth. But notice you have the glory of the glory of God lightens the entire city, and the Lamb is the light of that. So the Lamb is the personification, if you will, of his glory, of his light, right? And so then that's one of the reasons why when you think back with Jesus Christ, he's often referred to as the light of the world, right? There's a reason why. He is the encampment, if you will, of the glory of God. And so, we've talked about before when you're in Matthew, and we've gone through Matthew. In Matthew, when Jesus Christ goes and flips over the tables of the money changers, and he says, "You've taken the house, my Father's house, and turned it into a den of thieves." Well, later on in that same chapter, he says that your house is left unto you desolate. He's saying, all this temple, that belongs to you now. And what happens is he leaves in the very next chapter, and then when the veil is rent in twain at his crucifixion, what happens is veil's rent in twain, and what do they notice is the glory is no longer there because God's presence is gone, right? So then when you think of those things about how those two things are so interconnected, what you have back here in Exodus 40 is when you've got the cloud that's covered there and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle, what it is God is there. He's present there. Now, what's that tabernacle made out of? Skins from rams and things like that. And in order to get, and you think about these things, all this stuff goes together. In order to get the skin from rams, what do you have to do to the ram? You have to kill it. There's blood shed, right? Now, what's interesting about that is we now know that today, in the dispensation of the grace of God, what God's doing is we are, as each individual, we are tabernacles. God indwells us. His glory never leaves. And where is his glory now? It's in this flesh. That's that whole issue of the mystery of godliness and understanding the fact of God is choosing to put his life on display through each and every one of us. And you don't need that tabernacle anymore because you are. The Holy Spirit dwells in you, right? We've talked about those things. You're the temple. But back here, there's something else, and I want us to be able to think about this. So Revelation 21, who do we know is the light? Is the Lamb, Jesus Christ, right? Back over here in Exodus chapter 40, verse 35, and Moses was not able to enter into the tent of the congregation. Why? Because the cloud abode there, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And when the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle, the children of Israel went onward in all their journeys. But if the cloud were not taken up, then they journeyed not till the day that it was taken up. For the cloud of the Lord was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was on it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. Now, what happens is, when they set up camp and the glory shows up, they don't travel. When the cloud goes away or the fire goes away, that's when they pick their stuff up and move. Right? And that's what we see there. Verse 37, but if the cloud were not taken up, then they journeyed not till the day that it was taken up. So you've got an issue that you see that's taking place there. Go over to Numbers chapter 9. So when we see them leaving in Exodus 13, these are some of the things I want us to be able to think about. Now, do they have the tabernacle in Exodus chapter 13? No. But that cloud and the pillar are there, and what are they is the representation of his glory, right? His presence. Chapter 9, Numbers chapter 9, verse 15. So in chapter 9, the first 14 verses, you're dealing with the Passover. In verse 15, and so of course that should remind us of them coming out of Egypt, right? Verse 15, and on the day that the tabernacle was reared up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, namely the tent of the testimony, and at even there was upon the tabernacle, as it were, the appearance of fire until the morning. So it was always, the cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. And when the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, then after the children of Israel journeyed, and in the place where the cloud abode, there the children of Israel pitched their tents. Now, here's what, in my mind, this is what I'm envisioning, and you all tell me if you don't see it from that space, all right? So you've got a cloud here, children of Israel are there. The cloud goes away and shows up over here, and what do? Is they travel to that spot and they stop. Is that what you see in that verse? All right? So let's read that again just to make sure. Verse 17, and when the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, then after that the children of Israel journeyed, and in the place where the cloud abode, there the children of Israel pitched their tents. So what's he doing is he's showing them a way. And what happens is, so then they're there, the cloud goes away, ends up over here, and then they travel there, and then they stop and they set up camp again, right? So hopefully we kind of see that's what's taking place in the passage here, because what he's doing is he's taking them on that journey, right? So you could almost imagine along this red line, as they go through, you've got a cloud, it disappears, cloud shows up, and they journey to that one, right? Cloud disappears, shows up down here, and they journey to that one. So it's basically, again, he says, I'm going to take you out. And what he's doing is he's literally leading them out of Egypt and leading them through the wilderness. Right? Verse 18. At the commandment of the Lord, the children of Israel journeyed, and at the commandment of the Lord they pitched. As long as the cloud abode upon the tabernacle, they rested in their tents. So when the cloud goes away, what do they know they need to do? Pack up and we're moving. Now, I know you all have moved a lot. We've moved a few times. Could you imagine this? You're there for a few days, cloud goes away, you're like, all right, let's pack up again. But I mean, that's what's going on, right? Notice, and I like this part. Verse 18, at the commandment of the Lord, the children of Israel journeyed, and at the commandment of the Lord they pitched. As long as the cloud abode upon the tabernacle, they rested in their tents. What else are they doing? What are they doing at this time? When the cloud shows up and they pitch their tent, what happens? They're resting in their tents. Right? Just take a nap, lay back, enjoy. You don't have to go and do anything because God's going to take care of it and all that stuff. But verse 19, and when the cloud tarried long upon the tabernacle many days, then the children of Israel kept the charge of the Lord and journeyed not. What's interesting is as you see Israel coming out, they're doing what? They're following what God says. When the cloud's here, we're going to stop. When the cloud goes away, walk until you get to the other cloud. And so then what are they doing? They kept his charge and journeyed not. And some of those they were sitting there many days, right? Verse 20. And so it was, when the cloud was a few days upon the tabernacle, according to the commandment of the Lord, they abode in their tents, and according to the commandment of the Lord, they journeyed. And so it was, when the cloud abode from even until the morning, and that the cloud was taken up in the morning, then they journeyed, whether it was by day or by night, that the cloud was taken up, or they journeyed. Or whether it were 2 days, or a month, or a year, that the cloud tarried upon the tabernacle, remaining thereon, the children of Israel abode in their tents and journeyed not, but when it was taken up, they journeyed. So what's that tell us? Whether it was a day, 2 days, a month, year, however long it was, what did they do? They stayed there and they rested. Right? There's no, because he's taken them to a place, right? That he's going to provide them with everything that they need. So if you're going to stay there for 2 days, you don't want to start planting crops and stuff like that, because then you're going to leave, right? Because they're not going to grow. You wouldn't plant them anyway, right? Because he was feeding them. And so then that's one of those things. He was doing this the whole time, all the way through, and their response is, as you see every single time, is what happens is they did exactly what he said to do. Yeah. The appearance of it, yeah. As you see up there in verse 16, it says, in the appearance of fire by night, yeah. So, and you see this the entire time is God moving, directing them, they follow. And what is it that they're following is, he said, here's what I'm going to do, and they're doing exactly according to the commandment that they're picking up, they're taking, they're stopping when they're told. And they're really, what they're doing is they're following what God said, right? Verse 23, at the commandment of the Lord, they rested in the tents, and at the commandment of the Lord, they journeyed. They kept the charge of the Lord at the commandment of the Lord by the hand of Moses. Now, when in Exodus 13, where we are there. Well, by the time we're over here, in Exodus 9, trying to think, you've got where
they're following the cloud by night, or the fire by night, have they already gone?
that part no, because what Numbers 9 is talking about is what's taking place back in Exodus 14 and 15 and all that, right? So he's explaining over in Numbers what was taking place back there, because he starts off talking about the Passover. So this would have been when they're still back over in coming out of Egypt.
How long did they travel after
To where they were supposed to go? I don't remember off the top of my head. But they've got quite a ways to go before they get up into like Jericho and all that stuff where they're supposed to end up. Yeah. But even here, what do we see in verse 22? It says, whether it were 2 days or a month or a year, however long it was, right? So could we go through and map that out? I think we could. We already know the date in which they started to leave, right? Would have been right after that unleavened bread going out that way. Over the Passover and then unleavened bread going through there. So yeah, we could probably map that out time-wise.
So for the 40 years that they wandered in the desert.
Mm-hmm. That's part of that.
Still did that.
Yeah.
That was done 40.
Yeah. And that, yeah. And then that's one of those things when you look at this and you go over to 1 Corinthians 10 and Paul's talking about how God protected them and led them the entire time, and then on the other side of that Red Sea, all they did is just complain. But before that, what are they doing? They're keeping the commandment of the Lord, following exactly doing what he says. It's interesting that it's not really that we see anything till later on that that they kind of lose sight of it all. Yeah.
So, they have no idea this is going to go on for 40 years.
Mm-mm.
Geographically, do they know where they are when they're led to this place? Do they know where they are in reference to where the promised land?
So in chapter 14, verse 2, Exodus 14:2, says, speaking to the children of Israel, that they turn and encamp before Pihiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon, before it shall encamp by the sea. So they know the places where they are, where they're camping. Do they know that he's purposely taking them away from the Philistine war? I don't think so. Because the fact that he says, I'm not going to take them through where the Philistines are because there's war, I'm thinking that they don't even know that there's war there yet.
I guess my question is, as he names in 14, he's naming these areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But of course, he's writing this and it already happened.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if the people, Israelites, knew those cities.
Yeah, because verse 2, he says, speak unto the children of Israel. He's saying, tell them.
I doubt they knew it. I mean, they were raised as slaves. They've been slaves for 400 years. They don't get to travel.
Well, they don't have a map, obviously, but he says, speak unto the children of Israel that they turn to encamp before they get to this place. So they know the place. When they encamp, they know the name of that place. He's telling Moses, and of course he's writing this later, but here he's saying, speak unto the children of Israel, tell them, here's the place that we're going to encamp. So they know when they get there and they encamp, they know where it is. They know the name of it.
Okay, I was just wondering because as we read about the clouds,
Yeah.
he most likely had a cloud there.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like the cloud's there, then it goes to another place and they know to travel to that cloud. But do they know that place when that cloud shows up? So for instance, this first one in Exodus 14, and he says that they turn and encamp before Pihiroth, between Migdol and the sea. They now know that that's what that place is called. Whether they knew that or not, I don't know.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so I don't know, because I don't think that they had Rand McNally maps, right, or any GPS or anything like that says here's this place. But he says, tell the children of Israel that when you camp, this is where you're camping. So they would know it. Okay, so once they get there, now we know the name of that place. They may have known before, but by the time they're encamping there, he's telling them, here's where you're going to encamp. That's the name of it. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, and that is the purpose of the cloud, is you're going to follow the cloud. They don't know, and that's what I'm saying, and of course I'll take liberty with this. I'm going to assume that they don't know that there's war with the Philistines. But God does, and he's purposely directing them around it so that they don't see it. Right? So he's saying, I've got the path laid out. Follow the path. And then as you go through, you see those names that pop up.
Yeah, they're not ready to go into battle.
No. I mean, we looked at, they had armies. Now, what an Israelite army looked like in Egypt, I don't know, but they had armies, right? Yeah. So I mean, there's something there, but they know the names of the place, because he says, when we go to encamp before this place, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be between Migdol and the sea. So they know that here's this place before we get there. We know that's where God's going to dwell. But yeah, that's a good question. Get 1 Kings chapter 8. And these are just some of the things that you have with the glory. This, of course, in 1 Kings chapter 8, we're well outside of the realm of Exodus 13, because you're over here. Notice in verse 1 says, "Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto King Solomon in Jerusalem, that they might bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Solomon at the feast of the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th month." And he goes on down through there talking about the tabernacle, the congregation, all that stuff. Drop down to verse 9. Chapter 1 Kings 8, verse 9. Notice, there was nothing in the ark save the tables of stone, which Moses put there in Horeb, when the Lord made a covenant with the children of Israel, when they came out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass, when the priests were come out of the holy place, that the cloud filled the house of the Lord. Now, what house is it that the glory of the Lord's filling here? That tabernacle, Solomon's thing, right? Verse 11, "So the priest could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord had filled the house of the Lord." All right? So again, what is it that they're supposed to do when the glory's there is what? Can they do anything? No. Now, when they go into that kingdom and the glory's there, what's their kingdom supposed to be about? Is it's going to be their rest. Right? There's a whole bunch of other things that we can get into with all that, but one of the things I want you to see is you see that issue of the glory following the tabernacle as they moved. Over here in 1 Kings, you've got the tabernacle, the temple that Solomon had, and the glories there, and so we see that glory that going all the way through, and of course Jesus Christ as well, and then of course what God's doing today in the dispensation of the grace of God as well. But you see that issue of the glory and that tabernacle, how those things are I guess intermingled together, if you will. But that's what's taking place back over here in Exodus chapter 13, is that pillar of cloud to lead them by the way, and the pillar of fire by night also to lead the way, because they're gonna travel either by day or night, depending on whether the cloud or the fire's there, right? If the fire's there or the cloud's there, they rest. If it's not there, then they find it and they move towards it, right? And of course, that's that issue of God taking them all the way down through there, all right? Now, back over in Exodus 14. Exodus chapter 14. So if you look at the map, when we get to chapter 14, verse 2 there, we're already down here, right? That, I think so, yeah. So you've got, that's the Horoth that he talks about in verse 2, between Migdol and the sea. So you see that place right there. Now, you see the path that they traveled by the time they get down here. And of course, again, you got to think, Moses is writing this from years after, and so what he's going to do is he's going to fill in all the gaps for us as we go through, and we'll see this as we continue on, because they don't just start off in Succoth and then the next day they're down there near the Red Sea, right? But that's where they were running camp. Now, chapter 14, verse 1. "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they turn and encamp before Pi-hahiroth, I'll get that one day, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon, before ye shall encamp by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, They are entangled in the land of the wilderness, the wilderness hath shut them in. Now, what's interesting is Pharaoh knows where they are, and what's he going to start doing? They're down there in the wilderness. What can I do is let's go get them. Right? So this is one of the first times again that we see that Pharaoh says, yeah, you can go. No, you can't. Yeah, you can go. No, you can't. Yeah, you can go. Then he finds out they're down in the wilderness, and he says, all right, now we're going to go. Okay? Verse 4, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, and will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, and the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord, and they did so. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people, and they said, why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? So he finds out that they're down in the wilderness, and then he has this change of thought and says, well, let's go get them, right? And that's exactly what's going to be taking place. Verse 6, he says, and he made ready his chariot and took his people with him, and he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel, and the children of Israel went out with an high hand. But the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea beside Pihahiroth before Baal-zephon. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord, and they said unto Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou thus dealt with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that which we should die in the wilderness. Now, this is their I told you so moment, right? But why is it that Egypt is coming after Israel at this specific place? Okay, so Pharaoh finds out they're trapped down there in the wilderness next to the Red Sea to go before they can go. They can't go across, right? In his mind, that's what he's thinking. But back up, look at verse. Look at verse 4. It says, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. They followed after him. They were. And so then what happens is they get down into the wilderness near the Red Sea, and they get information back to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says, why did we let them go? Let's go get them. And you notice he takes all the best people that he possibly has and says, let's go get them. Right? And the reason, and again, when we talked about that issue of hardening Pharaoh's heart, he says it's God giving him exactly what he wants. What is it that Pharaoh wants? He wants to go get Israel, so that God says what? All right, go get them. And the reason I'm going to let you go get them is I'm going to show you that I am the Lord.
Does Pharaoh personally go with them, or he
He goes with them. And so, because you see, verse 6, he says, and he made ready his chariot and took his people with him, right? So he's going down there with them. And so he's going to go down with all of his best soldiers, all the best chariots, all the best captains, all the people that the best of his group. He said, let's all go down there and go after him. Let's go get him. Huh? Yeah. And you see that, right? Yeah.
God hardens him
Mm-hmm.
so that he will want to go.
No, he gives him what he wants. He says, I want to go after the nation of Israel. And God says, I'm going to let you.
Is part of this too that he wants to deal with Egypt once and for all?
Mm-hmm.
Get them out of the way. I don't want to deal with you later.
Well, it's part of that. But again, the whole point of...
I'm really God.
Yeah. So as you go through, and again, you think all the plagues that took place, God was showing them that he was God. A lot of the Egyptians were like, what? He is God. It's the witness there. And then here, Pharaoh still says, why did we let him go? Let's go get him. And God says, I'm going to let you come get him. It's the final, if you think of it that way, like a final showdown, I'm going to just destroy you. And they still, Egypt's still around. They're going to be around during the tribulation period. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's true too.
But as far as Pharaoh and his people at that time, yeah. But again, it's that issue of he's saying, I'm going to give you what you want to prove that I am the Lord, that I am Jehovah. Yeah. And again, the whole deal with this is to separate Israel from the rest of the world, right? And of course, that's what we'll see. If you just jump over here real quick, Exodus 19, because this is the real purpose behind it. And we've already looked at the verses prior to this when God says, I'm going to make a division between them. In Exodus 19, verse 4, all right? Exodus 19:4. Well, verse 3. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now, he's saying, go tell the people, remind them of what happened in Egypt. Verse 5, Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my commandment, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me. Notice, above all people, for all the earth is mine. And what he's doing is he's setting up Israel to be what? Above everybody else. He's saying, I'm going to create a nation. By this time he's done it. I'm creating a nation, and I'm making you separate from the rest of the world, and I'm going to show the rest of the world, when you do what I say, you're going to be able to see exactly what a nation can produce. Verse 6, he says, And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And that's exactly what Moses goes and does, right? So the whole point behind all this is to show that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob leads to this nation, and God says, I'm going to make something special out of this nation that I called Abram out of the Gentiles for, and I'm going to keep that promise, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. And part of how he does that is when Israel, or when Egypt comes after Israel, he says, I'm going to let you come do this, and I'm going to show you that I am the Lord. That I am the God of gods, King of kings, and all that, right? And so then, you stop and you think about this. They're down here at between Migdol and the sea, which would be the Red Sea down here. They're down there. God's brought them to that specific place, and then Egypt finds out where they are, and God says, I'm going to let you come after them to show you that I am God. Right? Now, all of Egypt, all the folks in Egypt that go down there, do they see this wonderful miracle of the Red Sea being parted? Right before they die. The difference is you got another group of people on the other side that saw it. They know that God is God. Here you have the Egyptians there. The fact that they find out that he's God at this moment, that doesn't do anything for them, right? But they find out who he is. Now, of course, by the time they get, and back over in verse 10, Exodus 14:10, and when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord, and they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? And then they're saying what? You brought us out here to die. Why did you bring us out here? We told you. See that he says, verse 12, is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. And I want you to think about this. Here's a group of people who Moses says to do what? Get the blood, put it on the doorpost and lintel, and they did that. But out here, they're saying, well, don't you remember we told you that we don't want to leave. We'd rather stay here than go out and die. But they still did what they were asked to do. To me, that's one of those things just kind of, I mean, we're all the exact same way a lot of times. Huh?
There wasn't that much time between this and the death of all the firstborn. It had to be less than a year.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, you're looking at,
250 miles.
well, if you go, even if you went with Usher's dates, it's within the same year. So, you know, if we want to go by that, I mean, you're within that year, right, of those two events taking place. How much time has elapsed, I'm not sure. I don't know of anything that would allow us to know exactly how many months or anything, unless we see something as we go through. But trying to remember. It wasn't. I'm trying to think if there was another, because we know we've got the first month. And I'm not thought about that. No.
Like a generation has passed away that would have
No, not at all.
people that are walking across the dry bed of the sea or the same ones that experienced everything.
Yeah. Okay, so when you're over at 19, chapter 19 says, in the third month when the children of Israel were gone out from the land of Egypt. So they're within 3 months at least, right? So by the time you're over in Exodus 19, it's been at least 3 months. So it would be within that time period that we're over here, right? So less than 3 months from where we see where they were cast out to where we are here in chapter 14. Now, again, I was like, I know that there's some dating there, but I couldn't remember if there was something else that would tell us exactly. But we know it's within 3 months, right? And it could be shorter than that, because that was the first one that I thought of that would give us a month to
But of course, you know, they
tell time from. Oh, without a doubt.
go from basically making bread every day, doing the exact same thing. Now they're like out
They're walking and then they're resting. They're walking and they're resting.
following.
Yeah. And so then they get down here to where they're trapped, right? Because they don't think they can go any farther. Pharaoh doesn't think they can go any farther. They're down in the wilderness right in front of this Red Sea. And it's not that little blip of water up there that you see in the top left that a lot of people put them at. They're down here. They're down here across from Midian, right? Down near Mount Sinai, which would make more sense than what a lot of people put them at, because in order for them to cross the Red Sea up there, then get down to Mount Sinai, they just anyway. And we'll see some more of that stuff as we go through. But there's no way we've gotten that much time to anyway. Time goes by way too quickly. Now, that next verse, I do want to read this because of what we're going to take a look at next week. Verse 13, and Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. And so what Moses is telling them is what? Stand on what God's told you. Watch and see the salvation that you have, and the people that you see from Egypt right now, they will no longer be seen. What's he telling them is about to happen with the people of Egypt? They're going to die. Just wait and watch, and don't worry about them, because God's going to take care of them, right? And so then that's exactly what takes place, and we'll pick up there next time. Time goes by way too fast. I looked earlier and it said 13 minutes. I was like, we got plenty of time. And then all of a sudden it was 47. I don't know where that 24 minutes went, but. Well, no, and I'm again, we're okay with that, but, and some of those things we'd have to take liberty on, but the things that we know for sure are the things that we can read here out of the scriptures, right? All right. So that's going to be interesting once we get into the rest of chapter 14. All right. Questions, comments, concerns?